Locomotive Express, a podcast series dedicated to local economic development here in Eastern Kentucky. The Locomotive Express is a product of the Eastern Kentucky Locomotive Alliance. The Locomotive Alliance is made possible by generous funding provided by the Mary Reynolds Babcock Foundation and support from the University of Kentucky Appalachian Center, the University of Kentucky Community and Economic Development Initiative in Kentucky, the ESSL Development Alliance, and the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies. This podcast, along with other resources, are archived and made available at whatsyourlocomotive.com. Again, that's www.whatsyourlocomotive.com. Well, hello, I'm your host, Shane Barton, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Locomotive Express, a production of the Eastern Kentucky Locomotive Alliance. Each episode will address a different topic related to community or economic development in Eastern Kentucky, Appalachia, or rural America. Each episode, you'll hear from and be enriched by comments provided by practitioners, researchers, activists, thought leaders, and experts in our subject of the day. Our episodes will wrap up with a spotlight feature called the Network Focus, where we'll hear from a local business member as they discuss what it means for them to be a local business in Eastern Kentucky. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this short break. Well, welcome back. I'm your host, Shane Barton, and you are listening to the second episode of the Locomotive Express. It's February, and what do local businesses think about in February? But how do we capture a little bit of that money, that Valentine's Day money? We all love our neighbors, our friends, our spouses, our kids, our aunts, and our uncles. But how do we show our love to our locally owned businesses? Well, the Eastern Kentucky Locomotive Alliance has a program called the Loving Local campaign, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about that just a little bit later to see if maybe you would like to participate in this program. Also on this month's podcast, we're going to revisit the interview that took place with Michael Shuman some time ago. We're going to wrap up today's podcast with our Network Focus feature, and we'll hear from a local business owner as they describe what it means for them to operate in Eastern Kentucky. Well, hello. It is February, and I'm your host, Shane Barton, and I want to talk a little bit about Valentine's Day before we get this podcast episode started. Well, like I said, February is here, and the Eastern Kentucky Locomotive Alliance has love on its mind. Love for locally owned and independent businesses, that is. Join our first annual Loving Local campaign by sending your favorite locally owned business a Valentine's Day card. You're invited to mail your own cards, but better yet, hand deliver your card during your next visit. Or you can use the Eastern Kentucky Locomotive Alliance's Valentine's Day card that we have available on our website. You can download that, and it has a special little message for your locally owned independent business about how they support our community and how you support them in that effort. And that is available for free on our website. Again, the website is www.whatsyourlocomotive.com, and that is a What's without apostrophe S, just WHATSYOURLOCALMOTIVE.com, whatsyourlocomotive.com. Now, Valentine's Day, it's a huge consumer holiday. But I want to talk about some of the numbers from last year's Valentine's Day. We received these numbers from the National Retail Federation, and I just want to look at Valentine's Day by the numbers 2012. Now, granted, these are a year old, so the numbers will change for this year, but these are some pretty interesting statistics. So the average expected amount that an individual is going to pay at this holiday, and this amount is up 8.5% since 2011, is $128. So just think, if we can shift a little bit of that to our locally owned independent businesses, we can have a major shift in our economy just in this one holiday. Now, the National Retail Federation suggests that 72 million people, that's the average number of Valentine's Day cards that are going to be purchased by parents. And 65% of all the gifts will take the form of a greeting card this year. Again, that is 72 million Valentine's Day cards that are going to be purchased by parents alone. And then 82% of the general population say that they'd like an experience rather than a gift this holiday. So what these experiences entail, nobody really knows, or how expensive they are. That's quite unclear. But what this does suggest is that consumers are looking for more than just a gift. They're looking for an experience, whether that be a dinner and flowers, or whether that be some sort of an experience that they can share together at a bed and breakfast or somewhere like that. So let's be thinking about that this holiday season. Now, what do you think the estimated portion of women who will send themselves flowers this holiday? I know myself, I'll be sending my wife some flowers and making her happy and putting that smile on her face. But the National Retail Federation says that 15% of women are going to send themselves flowers this holiday. So if you're out there and you're thinking about doing this and sending yourself some flowers, or even sending your spouse some flowers, let me suggest at least looking into your locally owned independent florist. I guarantee they'll be willing to work with you and give you just as good a deal as what you can find on the internet or at a national supplier. Now, the National Retail Federation predicts couples will spend an average of about $70 on their significant other or spouse this season, and that's up about 10% from the following year. In addition, the average person is planning on spending about $5 on Valentine's gifts for their pets. Now, it looks like pet spending over the Valentine's holiday is actually increasing, according to the National Retail Federation. Now, they also suggest that consumers are going to spend about $6 on their friends. So we're really only spending, on average, about $1.25 more on our friends than we are on our dogs. I'm not going to say anything about that. The U.S. consumers will spend about $3.5 billion on jewelry alone this holiday season, and that's up about 17% from about $3 billion in 2011. Now, granted, these numbers are from last year, 2012, so when I say from last year, I'm actually referring to the year before last in 2011. Now, some of the other big-ticket items that are going to be purchased this year include clothing, dining out, and other gift options. Now, greeting cards, like I said, are going to be the most popular gift option. Jewelry is expected to be a big hit as well. And 17.3% of the people surveyed by the National Retail Federation said they plan on buying jewelry, which is up 6% from the following. Now, where will all this shopping take place? The National Retail Federation suggests that discount stores will be the most popular destination, with about 36%. But department stores and specialty stores and online will share much of the holiday traffic as well. Others will shop with their local florist or jewelry store, and that's what we suggest. We suggest that anytime you're thinking about shopping, at least consider your local business options first. Now, that has been Valentine's by the numbers, and again, I want to suggest and invite you to join our local campaign, the Loving Local campaign. And like I said, we would love for you to go on our website, download the card, print it out, sign your name, write a little message to your business, and the next time you visit that business, hand deliver that message. It'll make them feel better, and it'll make you feel better in the same. But when we come back, we're going to revisit our previous interview with Michael Shuman and dig a little deeper into local economic development. Well, welcome back. I'm your host, Shane Barton, and this is the Eastern Kentucky Locomotive Alliance's Locomotive Express, a podcast series dedicated to Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia local economic development. And like I said earlier in the previous segment, we're going to revisit a conversation we recently had with Michael Shuman. We sat down and discussed local economies and shifting and localizing and investing in local food, local health care and services. And we hope to be able to share many of those conversations, at least in clips, over the next few episodes. But we're going to revisit a conversation where we were talking about future opportunities. When looking at localizing the economy, I asked him, where are we missing out? Where are the future opportunities?
The biggest one is investment. So the last book that I wrote, Local Dollars, Local Cents, was to focus on this. And to put this in perspective, I would say right now, if you look at a typical family's or typical household's consumption, you could make a good argument that half to maybe 60% is local right now. And if you move from urban areas to rural areas, that number probably increases to 70 or 80%. And I think that what we're talking about with various local purchasing campaigns is shifting people's purchasing habits maybe 10%, 20%. So it's a very modest shift that has a huge economic impact. In the area of investment, when you look at most of where people have their money now is not in banks, but it's in their long-term savings, in their pension funds, in stocks and bonds, in their insurance policies. And if you look at that money, even though more than half of our businesses are local small business, almost none of that money is being invested in local business right now. So it turns out that we just have a totally broken capital market for investment. And if we fix that market, about half of our long-term investment will shift from Wall Street to the half of our economy that we could call the Main Street economy. I think, so again, the scale of this is that for purchasing, we're looking at a 10 to 20% shift, but for investment, we're looking at a 50% shift. And when you shift if we actually begin to fix this capital market failure, if we get more of our money into local businesses, what's going to happen is you're going to start to create a very interesting kind of healthy cycle where, potentially competitive businesses that can't find money now do find money. So suddenly local goods and services are available and are more competitive. People buy more of them, and that leads people to invest more money in local businesses. And so we could make a transformation of our economy, I think, very quickly if we get this capital market issue right.
Well, Michael, has the capital market always been broken, or is this something that is a recent occurrence that's related to the stock market crash, or are we talking a contemporary problem or something that has been around for a while? And if so, can you tell me where that came from?
Back during the Great Depression, we enacted a whole system of securities laws that basically created a universe that I call investment apartheid. If you are a very wealthy individual, probably in the top 1% of wealth in this country, you have permission to invest in anything, anytime, no questions asked. If you're in the other 99%, you cannot put a penny of investment into a business unless there has been a whole bunch of disclosures made and validated by attorneys and accountants. That process is extremely expensive. And because, to put it in practical terms, if I'm a small business and I want to take investment from the non-wealthy, the so-called unaccredited investors in my community, if I want to take even $1 from them, it may cost me $50,000 or $100,000 of legal and accounting bills, and there's no way I'm going to do it. So what people have been talking about is, can we create mechanisms for reducing these administrative or transaction costs? And there actually has been a huge development in this area in the last year, because in the spring, the Congress passed and President Obama signed what was called the Jobs Act. The Jobs Act had a number of provisions in it, but the most important one was to create a new category by which small businesses can raise money called crowdfunding. And now the legal expenses, the accounting expenses for these companies is going to be way lower than it has been. So we're going to see many companies being able to go to websites. This will probably start occurring in late 2013, early 2014. A lot of companies will go to these websites and be able to get people to buy their shares. And at the end of the day, this process will cost them not $100,000, but maybe $5,000.
Wow, so we're really talking about some amazing capacity to shift local markets in the very near future. It will be very interesting to see what it looks like when it all shakes out, considering it's not really well defined right now. But it will be nice to see local businesses kind of shake up the crowdfunding market. Currently, we're only seeing arts projects and other philanthropy. But, local businesses could really change the environment, and it could be a huge boost to the local markets and local investment. We'll be right back, and what I'd like to do is revisit Michael Shuman's local motive. We're going to revisit Michael Shuman's local motive. When we sit down, we ask him, "What's your local motive?" And he replied, "Really finding community." But he did go on to talk about his birth year and the theory that Bill McKibben had about that being the year that the U.S.'s happiness peaked, and we'll hear the rest of his local motive.
Bill McKibben, who's a great environmental writer, argues that the data suggest that America's happiness peaked in 1956 and has been going steadily downhill ever since. Now, 1956 is an interesting year because that is the year I was born. I try not to take responsibility for the world's unhappiness, but there is a sense that I feel that in my lifetime I have seen working communities steadily deteriorate into driving, banal, empty, uncaring, impersonal, highly abusive communities. And I really would like to change that. And I think that I would like to change that in part for the world, but in part for myself. I mean, I now, even though I advocate for communities, I live out of my suitcase, have very little time that I put into my own community in Silver Spring, Maryland. I would like to change that. And so sometimes one has to address, your own biggest problem before you can change the world. And so I have found this kind of happy moment where I'm trying to address both.
Well, it's always nice to hear from Michael Shuman, especially when he's talking to us about his local motive. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to dive right into our Network Focus feature and talk to a local business owner about what it's like to be a local business in Eastern Kentucky. back. In this episode's network focus feature, we're going to meet Mike and Mike of Mike's Travel, located in downtown Irvine, Kentucky. Now, this is related to Valentine's Day, and remember, this is February. So, remember I was mentioning that a lot of people are starting to look for experiences? Well, I couldn't imagine a better experience than a cruise or other excursion. Now, if you're interested in going on an excursion sometime in the near future, I'd recommend checking out Mike's Travel. Again, they're located in downtown Irvine at 147 Main Street. And the phone number you can reach them at is 859-625-8708. We're going to hear from Mike and Mike as they describe what it's like to be a business in Eastern Kentucky.
Well, I'm Mike Nolan. I'm Mike Collins. We opened up the Mike's Travel back in January. We started doing business, went to school, got finished up with that, and we actually opened up our office space in April. We both have a passion for travel. I can talk about it all day long. And I'm welcome you to come down, see me, and we'll talk it all day. We've been on several cruises. We love to travel around the country. And we had the opportunity to start our own travel agency, so we did. We love it so far.
Well, Mike, what is it like doing business here in Eastern Kentucky?
It's good. I like it because I had been away for a while, and then I've come back, and then I'm getting to see people that I hadn't seen in a while. And I like helping people out in the community because what we do is more like a service. It's not like we're really selling a product that we're making. We're actually a service provider, and I like making people happy. I know we could probably do better business or more business if we was in a bigger city, but I wouldn't really know these people. The people come in and see us, I see on a daily basis.
Well, Mike, what are some of the positive aspects of doing business in Estill County specifically?
Well, this is also a service that, from my knowledge, has never been here. There is a lot of people in the county who like to travel, who would have to go to other cities to find somebody to do it for them or do all the research themselves. What we do is we can do all the research for them and get the best deal for them, versus them spending hours and hours looking up stuff. If somebody wanted to look for a cruise, well, there's 33 different cruise lines. They would have to go to 33 different websites where I can search and do everything at one time. So we're a service that the county's never really had. Bring more business into the downtown area.
Or Mike and Mike, what challenges have you faced with your business?
Getting people to know where we're at. Yeah. The word is starting to get out. I mean, slowly but surely, word of mouth from people. But we've done advertising, and Facebook has helped out tremendous. But there's still people out there that don't know who we are or what we're about.
Yeah. They don't realize that travel agents can get them better deals than something they go do themselves.
I think a lot of people are waiting to see how long we last. I think they're waiting for that first year to get over with.
Why do you think a program like the Eastern Kentucky Locomotive Alliance is needed or would work here in Eastern Kentucky?
It's good for these services here in the county that are not in, like Lee, Jackson, Breathitt, that they could use. And there's probably services there that we could use that we don't have here.
Well, what would you like for people to know about your business and how you can benefit them?
Like I said before, as travel agents, we can get better deals, and we have experience for places that normal people, do it themselves, wouldn't know how to get these discounts or know where to go in these far-off places.
They could go to Lexington to a travel agent, but the time they drive up, talk to them, come back home, and go back, make several trips to Lexington. We're right here. We're in your backyard. We're in your front yard, depending on what side of the county you're on. But we're right here local. Come by and see us anytime.
Or how did you get started in your business?
We've actually been doing a lot of travel ourselves for around 7 years. For the last 5 years, we've been booking vacations for people, cruises, hotels and stuff, because they know we were experienced at it. So in my free time, I would do it. And when it come out that we were out of a job for a while, and I just said, well, why not do what we've been doing for free and go ahead and get our licenses and stuff where we can do it professionally.
What advice would you give other people who are thinking about the benefits of doing business locally?
Doing business locally, you're actually putting money back into your own community. So you're actually, in a way, investing in your future. If you continue to take your money elsewhere, the money inside the county will actually go down and down until you have people businesses that move out or people that move away, and slowly but surely it'll just dry up to where there's nothing here and nobody will want to come here. If you try to keep your money locally, then local businesses can expand, can hire more people, maybe something new would come in. So by keeping your money, having your business local and using local, you're actually bettering your future.
All of us here at the Eastern Kentucky Locomotive Alliance would like to say a big thank you to Mike and Mike of the Mike's Travel in downtown Irvine, Kentucky, located at 147 Main Street. You can reach them on the phone at 859-625-8708. This has been the second episode of the Eastern Kentucky Locomotive Alliance's Locomotive Express podcast series dedicated to local economies and economic development in Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia. Remember, it's Valentine's Day coming up soon, and think local. We look forward to sharing more conversations with you about Eastern Kentucky and local economic development sometime in early March.